Let's hope Colson Montgomery never runs out of torpedo bats because he keeps proving he belongs in the big leagues. Let's discuss on today's episode of Locked On White Sox.
You are Locked On White Sox, your daily Chicago White Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, I'm your host, Todd Welter, a lifelong Sox fan and contributor for SouthsideShowdown.com, part of the Fansided Network. And also, I've covered Major League Baseball for outlets such as the Associated Press. And thanks for making Locked On White Sox your first listen every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Make sure to hit the like button on today's episode. Subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On White Sox if you've not done so already. Additionally, follow or subscribe to the show on your preferred podcast platforms. Colson Montgomery hit probably the most impressive home run of the season yesterday. And let's discuss the latest instance of him proving he belongs in the majors. Then I want to do two Minor League Monday segments as MLB Pipeline has updated their top 100 rankings and the team's top 30 prospects to account for the recently drafted players. And the reasons why I want to do two segments is I want to cover some concerns around where Hagen Smith ranks, and then I just want to go over the rest of the rankings. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now. Okay, so we need to make sure Colson Montgomery never runs out of torpedo bats. I mean, if he's getting low on supply, somebody's got to ring the bell and keep making sure the orders come in on time. If he needs me to pay for the overnight shipping, I'll pay it. Because MLB.com Scott Merkin reported that Montgomery got his new shipment of bats in, and yesterday he promptly crushed his 9th homer of the season. And they say it landed 452 feet in the right field stands. I'm not buying it. I believe it would have gone all the way to Danville, Illinois. It probably could have went to the Dan Ryan. And I'm not getting Joe Borchard vibes from Colson Montgomery either. Borchard, the former first-round pick who was a huge bust, only hit 26 home runs in his entire career, one of which was just as long as Colson's. Because a lot of reasons, as I keep saying, is Colson keeps certifying himself as a big leaguer. Now, a lot of the reasons why he's been certifying himself as a power hitter is switching to the torpedo bat. And I still think he would hit home runs without the torpedo bat, but you're seeing that when he gets it on the sweet spot, he's going to hit it a long, long way. So we got to also hope the torpedo bat never gets banned. Ever. It's an ingenious bat. I think it's a way to counter the power arms. Hey, if we're not banning pitchers throwing 99 miles an hour, and it's not corked bat, so I'm fine with the torpedo bats. But it's just also Colson finding a way to adjust to the big league game. But what keeps certifying him as a big leaguer is just the way he's been approaching the game, the way he's been impressing his teammates. I mean, his manager believes he's a certified big leaguer. The eye test keeps showing you. So, as long as the torpedo bats are legal, if that's what he needs to use, he will probably hit more home runs with the torpedo bat. Whereas if it's just a regular bat, and we saw him hit home runs in Charlotte where they're hitting regular balls, obviously big league balls. So he can hit major league balls out of the park. He's hit home runs in the minors. It's just he hasn't hit them in this type of spurt. And I know it's another Colson episode, but it's because, again, he keeps doing things that make you go, hey, I haven't seen that on 35th and Shields in a while, or at least a guy wearing a White Sox uniform doing that. We've seen Jose Ramirez do it to the White Sox for many, many times for the Guardians. But think about it. The White Sox lost 2 of 3 to the Guardians over the weekend. And yet Colson makes it seem like it's all fine now because the White Sox snapped a 6-game losing streak because he hit one of the most impressive home runs. Now, Lenyn Sosa also hit a 2-run shot. And he's making a case that you got to stop denying that he could be a foundational player. But I talked about him on Friday as the anomaly. And I know I've given Edgar Carroll the same treatment, and I think he can get to be a stud, just like, Colson Montgomery. But the reason why I've not done as many Edgar Carroll is a stud episodes is he's got a lot on his plate before he gets to being a stud. I like the way that Edgar Carroll is handling his development, or even how the organization is. Right now, let's just focus on contact. You're starting to see him try to drive the ball a little bit more, but let's focus on contact and just handling a pitching staff. And yes, if you can drive the ball, start driving it, start hitting with runners in scoring position. I would like to see him maybe clear that. But at least right now, Let's do those things where you can prove you can hit in the big leagues. We'll get to the other stuff as you start to feel more comfortable and get through the season. But when it comes to where Carroll's got a lot of hurdles to clear for stud status, and it's nothing like, oh, he can't get there. It's just, again, he's got to handle a rotation. He's got to handle the opponent's base running. He's just got to do all the things that a catcher's got to do, plus be a foundational player in the lineup. That's going to take a little bit to get to stud status. And the same with Kyle Teal. For those that are about to jump in the comments, be like, how can you forget about Kyle Teal? He can get there too. I'm not denying that, but they've got a lot more hurdles that they have to clear just based on what they have to do as catcher. For Colson, as I've said on a previous episode, it's basically he's got to clear 4 hurdles. Hit 20 to 30 homers next year, because that's going to be a full season. Although, could he hit 20 this year? I doubt it. I mean, but if he can get to 15, that would be impressive. But do it next year. Stay healthy. Still hit once pitchers do eventually make those adjustments. They are eventually going to figure him out and try to limit what he can do. And eventually play solid defense at third once Billy Carlson eventually moves him off. And maybe I would say that the number 5 hurdle is maybe hit some home runs then when your torpedo bat stock runs out. Or again, just make sure you do not run out of torpedo bats, because I love watching them play. You cannot deny it's been a lot of fun. The White Sox have just been much more enjoyable. Obviously, they've been enjoyable with Teal and Carroll here, and when healthy, Chase Mydroth, and even Miguel Vargas, the core that I keep on talking about. And I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but again, it's a lot different than what it was last year. Another figurative dollar and mentioning last year. But you're getting this thing called hope and excitement. And it's just gotten even better since Colson Montgomery's been up. And they're winning more games. Yes, they went on a 6-game losing streak. Yes, I said a lot of the problems came up. But notice when Colson is hitting bombs, problems don't seem so bad. And I love what Vinny Duber wrote in yesterday's Sun Times. When White Sox manager Will Venable was asked Saturday if he thinks rookie shortstop Colson Montgomery belongs in the major leagues, it was somewhat of a joking question. After all, Montgomery's exploded onto the scene since his promotion in early July, pairing offensive success and eye-popping power with impressive defense, restoring the high hopes in the one-time top 10 prospect that dipped after a season and a half of poor results in AAA. Quote, I feel like he belongs here, Venable said. He looks like he belongs here. He thinks he belongs here, unquote. Talk about hammering home a point. But all Venable needed to do was wait a day when Montgomery did all the hammering for him. The 23-year-old former first-rounder absolutely demolished a pitch 452 feet for the longest homer at right field this season. The ball nearly reached the right field concourse, the exclamation point in a 6-4 win for the Sox over the Guardians on Saturday. Quote, that was one of the farthest ones I've hit in my career, Montgomery said. So I watched a little bit. I just felt like it was a little motivation and momentum for the guys. I wanted to get my guys fired up. I try not to show up much emotion, but I was trying to get these guys fired up, end quote. Mission accomplished. Second baseman Lindeen Sosa described the blast as, quote, unthinkable. Starting pitcher Davis Martin called it, quote, beautiful. I mean, first of all, when was the last time you could say that about a White Sox player? They did something unthinkable. They did something beautiful. I mean, obviously we've seen, some, even though it's been a rough couple of years, we have seen some decent performances. Luis Robert Jr., 2023. But in this type of stretch, and imagine if he keeps just doing it again and again and again. And I like how GM Chris Getz, he said this about Montgomery. This is from Jack Ackney in Sports Illustrated. Quote, once you're knocking on the door and trying to get over the hump and break into the major leagues, there's an added element of stress that comes with it. I do believe that him coming up here has freed him up and allowed him to be the player we knew he could be, end quote. I like that because, again, he's using, obviously he's using what's within the rules with the torpedo bat, which is fine, but he's not putting too much pressure on himself. And he's not trying to force the issue. He's not trying to make himself into a star. He's finding a way to be a star. He's taken what, is given to him. He's making the adjustment. And again, he's got the great approach. And I respect people that put in the work like he did in the minors. And hey, maybe he carries the White Sox a long, long way down the road. And maybe Hagen Smith carries the White Sox to some wins some days like Colson has been doing in the lineup. However, the pitcher is starting to experience a decline in the prospect rankings like Colson did. And let's discuss that after the break. This episode is brought to you by Game Day Hue, and so is this hat I'm wearing. For White Sox fans like me, this one hits the mark. Game Day Hue makes clean, no logo gear with team-inspired colorways for every pro and college fan base. It's all about letting your colors speak for you. No giant logos. Again, just taking off the Yeah, that's all it is. Nice, smart, versatile style that works on game day, on the course, and anywhere in between. And you know me, I love my hats. You guys just saw. I got a receding hairline. I got a big old bald spot. I like to cover it up. And I love how this hat fits so comfortably. I gave one to my father-in-law too. Loves wearing it. And it's not just hats. Check out their split shade gloves, made for the course, or the perfect gift for the fan who has everything. Can't wait to, I can't wait to put it on the course. Can't wait to grip it and rip it with this nice fitting glove. And right now you can get 15% off with code MLB15 at GameDayHue.com. That's GameDayHue.com. The code even stacks on bundle deals. So now's the time to load up. Let your colors talk, because colors speak louder than words. That's GameDayHue.com, code MLB15. Welcome back to Locked On White Sox. I'm your host, Todd Welter. Again, make sure to hit the like button on today's episode and subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On White Sox if you've not done so already. And if you can't catch the show on YouTube, Locked On White Sox is available on all major podcast platforms. So make sure to follow or subscribe on places such as Apple or Spotify. Either way, get your 30-minute fix of Chicago White Sox baseball venting with me. Really quick, you might be like, what is with the scene change, especially you everydayers? Why are we like in a bedroom? Well, first of all, we're in the guest bedroom. Secondly, as you guys know, I live up in Milwaukee, actually, and with the storms, my basement got flooded. Now, I wouldn't say flooded. The carpet got soaked. My power went out. I think my sub pump, obviously went out. So it kind of backed up. Water just soaked into my carpet. So my studio is currently being blasted by air blowers trying to get it out. So for the next couple of days, we will be in the guest room. Well, the news around Hagen Smith this year has actually not been great. At least it hasn't been great probably after spring training. It sounds like it feels like to me the high point for Hagen Smith was spring training. He looked great. He looked impressive. Looked okay even to begin at Double-A Birmingham, but then the narrative has been flipping on him. I mean, you got Jack Caglione. He beats him to the majors in terms of getting there by just tearing up, basically every level he was at. And that matters. And I get why it matters, because the White Sox needed a bat. Now, again, you might be like, Todd, and especially everydayers might recall, Todd, you were the one that didn't want Jack Caglione. You're right. I fell for the banana in the tailpipe in terms of I did not want another first baseman type issue with Andrew Vaughn. And as you can see, if you develop a hitter correctly, or at least stand him up right, or again, figure out a way to just get him off to a better start, maybe it's not the end of the world if you take a first baseman. Although, again, I just still think this Andrew Vaughn is just nothing more than his June heater moved over a month since he didn't play in the big leagues in June. But hey, if he thrives, great. But Caglione, and we don't know if he's going to be a great big league player, but he did get to the majors. And again, you needed an impact player, and he did have a lot of potential. And he was the one taken the pick after Smith. Smith was taken 5th overall last year. And Caglione goes to Caglione. I think it's Caglione. I always get it mixed up. Somebody wants to put in the comments. He was taken by the Royals, your division rival. And then you got Smith experiencing that dip in velocity and the elbow soreness. So then he gets shut down, and then he gets sent to Glendale, Arizona, to the team spring training facility, get to the Arizona reset and work on some mechanical things. And then MLB Pipeline ranks Connor Griffin, its top prospect. Another bat that the White Sox were tied to. Another high ceiling bat that the White Sox were talked to. Another prep bat that if he got to the majors, say within let's say lucky 3.5 years, would still be 21 or 22. I think he was a little bit older. Either way, high impact guy. He's now the number 1 overall prospect in baseball, at least according to MLB Pipeline. And now, when speaking of Pipeline, Smith, he continues to slide down the prospect rankings, not only MLB Pipeline, but Baseball America. But hey, at least he's going to the Arizona Fall League, because that's what the team announced over the weekend. Him and Noah Schultz are going to go to the Arizona Fall League. They're going to get some more innings, and that's a good thing. They do needed some innings because, again, where Schultz on the 7-day IL, remember, it's 7 days in the minors, and he's supposed to be back, I think, later in the month, they said, with that knee issue. I think it's patellar tendonitis or something. They'll be back. But here's the thing. Everybody's like, they're going to go to the Arizona Fall League. Yeah, and they're going to get some innings. That's great. But remember, pitchers get eaten alive in the Arizona Fall League. But like I said, it worked for, Grant Taylor went to the Arizona Fall League last year, and look at what's happening to him right now. So awesome. But the optics of Smith just do not look good right now, as Baseball America dropped him completely out of their top 100 rankings. Here's what Baseball America wrote. The White Sox are working to improve Smith's delivery and strike throwing, but he's yet to show he has a plan B if hitters recognize his slider and won't chase it out of the zone. There were scouts who saw Smith and as a quality reliever coming out of college. He needs to improve his control and add an off-speed pitch to put those worries to rest. Oh, if he reaches his minimal floor as being a reliever, that's going to be awful for the White Sox. That will definitely be your botching it. Now you could say, hey, Todd, Grant Taylor. I'm sorry to make you that, but there are people out there that are like, he still needs to be a starter. And I'm with you. I have no problem if the White Sox still want to develop him to a ceiling. I just keep cautioning everybody. You got to listen to his arm. If his arm can't handle a big league workload, I'd still rather than have him be a high leverage reliever. Got the save yesterday. And the other reason why you can sort of experiment around with Grant Taylor and it not totally be the end of the world is Grant Taylor was a second round pick, and he was basically a first round talent that fell to you because of Tommy John surgery. He's a bonus pick. If he thrives as a reliever, great. Technically, he wasn't even supposed to be there at the second round. So that's the other reason why I don't get in such a. With Hagen Smith, this was the guy that now that you took 5th overall, and you've got to be hitting on these first round picks for the next couple of years because, again, I don't see Jerry on his way out the door ever authorizing a major spending spree. Now, MLB Pipeline has not completely dropped him out of the top 100, but he's getting close. He's ranked 93, and he was ranked 39th the last time they updated their top 100 rankings, which I believe was a month and a half ago. That is a huge fall. And he's no longer considered a top 10 left-handed pitching prospect. He was the 3rd best pitching prospect for a long time, ever since the White Sox drafted him. And clearly, MLB Pipeline is a lot higher on him than Baseball America. Also, I'm not going to be too alarmed and ring, but Noah Schultz, he also dropped from the top left-handed pitching prospect. He's now down to 6, and he actually dropped down to 38 overall. But for Schultz, the reason why I'm not totally panicking is this, again, that's a lot of long levers that have to get matched up. So it's a lot of just making sure the mechanics are always in sync and being healthy. Tall pitchers tend to have injuries like knee issues and back issues, that type of stuff because of all the arms and all that stuff. That's one of the risks that you take with taller pitchers. But I get it. You want the extension, you want the arm angle, that type of stuff. That's lefty. I should do that. Anyways, though, it's getting hard to get past all these red flags. Since one, we've already lived through the Colson Fulmer experience. And two, again, the process that came with drafting Smith, and again, what you passed on keeps looking flawed, even though there was some logic to it. And I'm not giving up on Smith. We're still one full minor league season into his career. Because remember, he only pitched 3 games last year at high A. It's just the logic was, hey, we draft, we can develop left-handed relievers. We can develop left-handed starters. We just did it with Garrett Crochet. We've done it with Chris Sale. We've done it with Carlos Rodon. So these are the guys that we can definitely get and feel comfortable with it. And oh yeah, by the way, we're not going to be paying Garrett Crochet. So basically, in essence, they went safe and they went with the economics. And to me, I always think there's nothing wrong with ever drafting a pitcher. But as you guys have known, the everydayers have heard me say, I believe in rounds 1 through 5, you should always be drafting best player available, regardless of the price. You can always make up that money later in terms of getting $10,000, pitching arms and that. And it feels to me, as we keep seeing as time, and I get it, hindsight's 2020 on these, but it feels like, they missed on the best player available. Like JJ Weatherhold, he's the 6th overall prospect. So it just keeps getting me more and more terrified that they bungled this pick, that they kept passing on guys that could have definitely happened. Now, got to breathe and calm down a bit as, Jacob Mizrowski, he was in the bottom portion for a while, and he's been tearing it up for the Brewers. Colson Montgomery dropped out of the top 100. So it's not totally the end of the world, but again, the optics I can see don't look great. Well, let's go over the rest of the ranking updates to the White Sox having a couple top 100 prospects and their updated top 30 after the break. August 25th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week one even kicks off, this is your moment. And I always keep telling you, the traditional money lines, the over-under, and the spreads, they're fun to play on FanDuel. But it's the futures along with the props and the parlays. That is how you can win some serious cash on FanDuel. And maybe this is finally the year Josh Allen in Buffalo breaks through and wins the Super Bowl. I'd like to see it. They are at plus 700, so $10 on that right now. And it hitting could net you $70. And let's say Justin Herbert dazzles enough to win the MVP. He's at plus 2,000 the last time I checked. So $10 on that. And if he does win the MVP, it's $200 in your pocket. But, I'm not always a huge risk taker sometimes. I'm more low risk, that type of stuff. So if you want to play it safe, I would suggest going with Patrick Mahomes MVP and Philadelphia repeating, as those are still in plus numbers. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now, because Future Days is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. Welcome back to Locked On White Sox. I'm your host, Todd Welter. Again, shout out to all the everydayers. I appreciate your loyalty. Please hit the like button on today's episode. Recommend to your fellow Sox fans or baseball fans, friends, to subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On White Sox, wherever they get their podcasts, as this show's available on all major podcast platforms. And again, I hope you had a better weekend than me. Again, my basement got absolutely soaked in water. I spent all yesterday on my hands and knees in a shop vac trying to get water out. I've got air blowers going, all that stuff. So appreciate my in-laws for coming, my brother-in-law, my sister-in-laws coming in over to help out. So I hope you had a good weekend. Otherwise, we're safe up where we are. And I am very well sleep deprived and that type of stuff. So again, I hope you had a great weekend. The White Sox started the season with 6 top 100 prospects. And even with the graduations of Kyle Teel and Edgar Caro, and Colson Montgomery will begin there shortly, but at least for today, the White Sox somehow still have 6 top 100 prospects per MLB Pipeline. Basically, what you're going to do is you're going to swap in Billy Carlson. He debuts on the MLB Top 100 prospect rankings at number 79. And then Caleb Bonemer, he is up to now 88. So Caleb was already there. Once Jacob Mizrowski graduated, he was in, I believe, at 99. So now he's already up 11 spots. That's good. And your, number 10 pick, he's already there at 79. And Braden Montgomery, he is actually now considered the White Sox top prospect per Pipeline, although Baseball America dropped him down a bit. So again, that's another reason to not totally overreact on Smith's decline in the rankings. And again, one scouting, expert site, publication service. Again, it's just like in the scouting world. One scout might think this is a great baseball player, and another scout's like, meh, can't play. Or, well, his ceiling is the floor. Where another one's like, the ceiling is the floor, that type of stuff. If you understand what I mean. And when it comes to Montgomery, man, there is a huge range between what Pipeline thinks and what Baseball America thinks. And that's another reason why, again, to not get too high or too low on these prospect rankings. Montgomery, though, is ranked 33rd per Pipeline. He's ranked 83 per Baseball America. And here's what BA wrote about his decline, at least in terms of the rankings. Montgomery's coming off a serious leg injury suffered in 2024, so there's potentially more to come once he gets further into his recovery. Well, editorial really quick. It looks pretty well recovered to me. Anyways, even so, it's been a pretty modest season for a corner outfielder who needs to be a middle-of-the-order bat. The White Sox moved Montgomery more slowly than the 2024 college first-rounders, and his start at Double-A, 17 strikeouts in his first 11 games, offers hints as to why. All right, I get he's got 107 strikeouts, and he hasn't set Birmingham completely on fire like he did at Winston-Salem when he got promoted, or Kannapolis, where he started. But I think Baseball America is tying the strikeouts as a hint to why they're going slow with him is a little bit of a stretch. Number one, I think a lot of us were all like, hey, guy missed all of last year's potential minors. Because again, like some of these guys, maybe all they do is play nothing at the Arizona Complex League. or maybe all they do is play a little bit at low A or high A, that type of stuff. He didn't play at all because of the broken leg. I mean, JJ Weatherholt got at least, I think, 150 bats last year when I was looking. So maybe the White Sox are trying to catch up, and he's already, I believe, blew past their expectations and the timeline. Like, again, I think Pipeline's got him coming up at 2027. Baseball America, it's like, what, you want him to here yesterday? I just don't get it. I mean, again, you don't have to be that high on him, but to tie the strikeouts, and again, the strikeouts is a concern. But he does have 12 home runs and 22 doubles. And like I talked about with Colson Montgomery, you can live with the strikeouts so long as there's power to back up when there's contact made. And I think he's got the opportunity to do that. And I know Ian Eskridge of FutureSox.net did find that maybe he's got to do a little bit of a swing adjustment. There is a potential hole there, but I have a feeling they're going to work with him. You know, you don't trade Garrett Crochet for a package of 4 prospects, 3 of which have already made it to the major leagues. Although I don't get why Winkelman Gonzalez got demoted. He had that ball dancing on Saturday. I know it was in a very, very low leverage situation, but he was making that ball dance. But I think you got 4 major leaguers out of it. I don't think they're going to be like, yeah, one of the centerpieces, damn, we're not going to deal with that guy. Anyways, in terms of the rest of the top 30, that Pipeline updated. So again, we went back to the top of the segment again. You got Colson, number 1. You got Schultz, 2, and down the line on there. Jaden Fauske makes his debut as the number 7 prospect, the team's second round pick this year. That's going to move pitchers Tandem McDougal and Christian Oper down a spot in terms of the top 10. Also puts George Wolcott completely out of the top 10. He's at number 11 now. Kyle Lodice, he's this year's 3rd round pick. He is now at the 10, so that is basically your top 10 right there. Sam Atanachi moved up to number 12 with his ability to rake. And I'd almost say, like, I know they Pipeline must really like Lodice's potential, even though a lot of people are saying, like, again, he'll be a raised floor player, and there's nothing wrong with that. But Sam Atanachi, when you watch him play, man, all he does is hit. Maybe I'm a lot higher on him than a lot of people, but I would have put him in the top 10. You could say you're crazy. Look at the numbers. Look what he does. But hey, at least they're getting in on the Sam train. Some other big notes: Gage Zeal, who was acquired in the Austin Slater trade, he is ranked number 16. Jacob Gonzalez, even though he's been hitting a little bit better, obviously, this year, and he was starting to climb up. I believe he was actually at 11. He's already all the way down to 17. Jairo Iriarte went from a top 10 prospect to number 19. And FutureSox.net, they've been teasing, and they've got it up on FutureSox.net. I hope you go out there, guys that missed their top 30. They don't even have him in the top 30. He's in the guys who missed our top 30. So that shows you what type of season he's having. White Sox 4th round pick, Landon Hodge, he is going to debut at number 23. And actually, my only other complaint is pitchers Mason Adams, Blake Larson, Juan Carrella, Kai Bush, and Aldrin Batista are in the top 30. And the only reason why I have a complaint is they're out for the season. They're absolutely not going to be helping you at all this year. And I will keep harping on that you need to have a top 30 for players not lost for the season, like after April or May. You can always pull them out and you can put them back in once they're healthy. But unless it's like a temporary injury where they can still potentially play this year, they're not doing anything for the organization. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be cruel. I still love a lot of these guys. That's just my complaint. Well, that wraps up this edition of Locked On White Sox. Thank you for making Locked On White Sox your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or every listener podcast. I'll be back tomorrow to answer your mailbag questions, and make sure to send them in via X, formerly Twitter, at Locked On Sox, or you can email me at lockedonwhitesox@gmail.com. Also, feel free to leave comments about today's discussion regarding Colson Montgomery proving he belongs in the majors and this week's Minor League Monday report. You can leave them at the episode page on YouTube, X, formerly Twitter, at TajayDub, or at Locked On Sox, or you can email me at lockedonwhitesox@gmail.com. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow.